let's just get to the point. Apple. How did you get the job at Apple? Like, just walk us through the entire process.
Okay, so the Apple one, honestly, like I'm not kidding you. Like I know everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, this is like she's like forming it," but honestly, it's God. First of all,
okay.
But I'll tell you the reason why I said that because.
She ain't gotta tell me what to do with it. I already know. Been knew I had the juice with it. Y'all ain't ready though. Outside, got the vision going. I'ma make it go.
So, welcome to another episode.
Wait, where's that recording? Sorry, you can start.
Okay.
All right, there we go. You can do that. All right.
Welcome to another episode of Atila TV. Our first guest for season 2 is the wonderful, sensational Sefunmi Osinaike.
Relax.
I love when I gas these people up. So Sefunmi is currently a product manager at Ecobee. And before that, he was a product manager intern at Microsoft and Apple. And before that, he graduated from the prestigious electrical and computer engineering program at University of Waterloo Engineering. And then, so while he was at Waterloo, he was really involved in a bunch of entrepreneurial ventures. I think Pave was the product management tool, right? Productivity tool. 42 Stone, the digital media company.
Yeah.
And then, and so in his free time, when he's not working at all these awesome tech companies, he's helping other people get jobs at these awesome tech companies. So he's doing a thing.
Yeah, it's called doing a thing.
Doing a thing, podcast/platform/company with his partner and friend Helen.
Yeah.
So as you can see, this guy keeps himself busy. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Thanks for joining us, man.
It's good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
So the first one I would like to start off with is Sefunmi at 16. What were you like at 16 years old?
I actually went back to read my admission information form, which is a form you fill out when you're going to the University of Waterloo. I did that last year because I was like self-reflecting and thinking about my path. And at that time, I was very ambitious. Like I think I've always been ambitious. I always wanted to like solve problems and do things very grand. So reading that back, it was me saying, "Hey, I want to solve the electricity problem in Nigeria." That was me. And I remember clearly, before I left Nigeria to come to Canada, I was like, I'm going to solve this problem. I want to solve this problem. So at that age, I think that was like my main focus. Like that was like sort of like my life mission. Like go to university, get all the skills, learn, come back to your country and improve it. And electricity was one of them. That was one of the problems that I felt like I could solve, which is the reason why I went into electrical and computer engineering. So at that time, I was obviously naive. I didn't think about how I was going to get it done. I just really just wanted to get it done.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice to be that. It's nice to be curious. It's nice to be adventurous and ambitious and have these grand ideas. But and then I think like you have something to look forward to. You have something to work towards, and you're able to try and adapt to the changes that happen, which is essentially what I eventually did while I went into Waterloo. But yeah, so from at 16 was still just maybe like less knowledgeable, but still as ambitious and still like.
So you're not less ambitious now than you were back then.
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Because I feel like a lot of people as they get older, sort of tone back their ambition. But you think you're still just as ambitious as you were back then? That's awesome.
If not more, I think, because now. I know my limits.
Yeah.
Like I know my limits. I understand technology to the point where like I know what's feasible and what's not.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to be creative as to like what exactly can be done, and then what path do I have to follow to essentially get to where I want to be. But versus, hey, I want to do this, and you have no idea how to do it. So I think that would probably be the biggest difference between 16-year-old me and like now.
And then so 16 so what school did you go to in Nigeria?
I went to 2 high schools. I started off in Air Force in Ikeja, Lagos. I was in a military school.
Yeah.
I don't really talk about it much, but I did. So I went there for my junior secondary school. I was in Lagos. It was something.
Define something.
It was very strict. It was very strict, and I think like I really enjoyed the experience because I think it still formed who I was.
Yeah.
It was very disciplined. It was very, very strict and very disciplined. But I enjoyed that experience, and I got to see people from different stages in life. I think at that time, our tuition, just to give you some context, was probably about $20 a term.
Wow.
Right? In Nigeria, it's about 5,000 naira, which is not a lot of money. But then, so you see people from all forms of life, and the education standard was very good. They taught outstandingly well. But I got to see a different side of life with other people who didn't have privilege and who actually struggled to pay that $20. So I think it made me appreciate things more and my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then after junior secondary school, I went to the other end of the spectrum, Nigerian Turkish, where a lot of rich kids lived. You know, the tuition difference is so high. How they're paying like hundreds of thousands of naira versus like just $20. And so I got to see those two perspectives and just try and figure out how do you navigate both. So that was where I did my senior secondary school, and I was in Abuja. So I lived in both Lagos and Abuja before moving to Canada. Yeah.
And then so, and again, I know like a lot of Nigerians, well, most people that school in Nigeria, they want to go abroad for school.
Yeah.
And so abroad is typically Canada, US, and UK.
Yeah.
So why did you decide on Canada? What other schools were you looking at? All that kind of stuff.
I actually wanted to go to the US. I want to go to MIT.
Okay.
That was like my number one choice.
Yeah.
MIT. Like I was like, that's where I want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my dad didn't like the idea of going to the States. I don't know why. I haven't really talked to him about it. I didn't want to go to the UK. That one for sure I knew I wasn't interested in going to the UK. I don't know, I just didn't like it. And then I started reading about Waterloo and this co-op program. And I think the biggest thing that was intriguing to me was you could work while going to school. Like you do 4 months of school, 4 months of work, and you could get paid. I was like, you can get paid. So right when I was in Nigeria, I was like, I want to go to Waterloo. You know, since like I can't go to the States, so I can. I also didn't get into MIT, so it's like that's like another thing. I feel like if I got into MIT, I feel like I might have convinced my dad, but I didn't. So I was like Waterloo, like, and that was my goal. And you know, I was like, I'm not settling for anything else. And then that's like I pushed, and then thankfully, you know, we got it.
Wow, congratulations. So you said like your dad didn't want you to go to MIT. Why?
He didn't want me to go to the States.
Well, did he have a reason or?
I don't know. Like, I just think like at that time, I don't know. He just had this whole view of like, because I don't know. It wasn't the distance, because Canada is like further. It was just, I don't know. It was just some
political kind of climate.
Yeah, and like maybe the kids that were going to the States at that time weren't doing that well, or something, or things that he's heard. I don't know. But I've been biased by other people that he knew. Yeah. Because I knew he had some friends that had kids that went there, so I don't know. But he just had his reason. I was just like, no, you're not going. I was like, okay, it's not much that I can do. Because my siblings went to school in the UK, and I was just like, no, UK is not for me.
Why not?
I just didn't want to go. I didn't like it. So I was just like, you know what, Canada, co-op, I want to do this. And I think that's honestly one of the best decisions I've made ever.
That's great to hear. Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, so before I was doing this, I know that international students, the tuition they pay is ridiculous. Yeah. And then Nigeria, especially on top of the fact that you're like the currency that just moves higi haga, as the politician guy said. So I think so. Anyway, Waterloo engineering tuition is like 18,000. As an international student, it's about 40,000. How were you able to pay for that?
So I was very fortunate that my parents were able to support me in my education throughout. So I didn't have to pay a dime. I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of people take for granted. And, you know, I want to be able to recognize the fact that, you know, I've been privileged to be in the position that I am today. A lot of the experiences I've had is because I've been, you know, fortunate to have them because of my privilege. Yeah. So they supported me throughout. And, you know,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I know it's been like privilege.
No, it's all good. But props to them, and thank God every day for my parents, because without them I wouldn't have been able to. Because the tuition is so high. Even with all my co-ops, like I don't think I would have been able to. Maybe like towards the end, when I was working in Cali, like I was making like decent money, that maybe I would have been able to pay it off. But it was so expensive, and they supported like throughout. Okay. So God bless them. Thank you, Mom. If you're watching it, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad.
That's good. The reason I asked you is because I know that like there's a lot of scholarships available for international students, and a lot of, especially because I was just wondering maybe if a lot of international students actually get into a position whereby they come here on a scholarship and they run out of money like during the middle of halfway through their school year. So I think maybe you've had an experience like that they can benefit from. So you're at the Waterloo Engineering, the prestigious Waterloo Engineering, and then so your first couple of years you're there, how did you find it and how did you get the? I think was Shaw your first job?
No, I worked at a startup before. The startup that ended up becoming Andela.
Oh,
so I worked with, it wasn't Atila at that time, I worked with the founding members. So it was Ian, Nad, and Ian. So it was the three of them. It was something called Farah at that time.
Wait,
so
was he at Waterloo the same time that you were at Waterloo?
He just graduated by the time. So when I was in first year, he was about to graduate. So he graduated, and then the summer of 2013, I was working at the company called 4R. And at that time, it was supposed to be an online education platform for Africa where they could take online courses. So they were in the Velocity Garage at that time. That was my first co-op experience. Like, that's when I got to do software development. So that was great. After that, they went to Extreme Startups in Toronto. They pivoted a bunch of times until they landed up with Atila when they went to New York, and that's how it started. But yeah, I worked with the founding members.
How did you meet Ian? Because that guy, I don't know, he's doing some big things, man. But how did you meet him?
Do you know what? I can't remember. Someone introduced me to him, and was just like, it might have been. Now that I think about it, I was in first year. I was like, so in Waterloo, first year, your first co-op is the hardest to get, and I got so many interviews, but I just couldn't convert them into like jobs, and it was very stressful. I was about to go to Nigeria and work, but I was like, I'd rather stay here, and like, so I remember just talking to a bunch of people, and people were like, go talk to Ian. Ian has a company, he can help you. And I can't remember who. I think it might have been Nad. I'm not sure.
Shout out Nad.
Yeah, but Nadara. It might have been him, and then he ended up being my supervisor after a while. But yeah, someone told me to talk to him. I emailed him, and he was like, "Yeah, come through." I went with like a full-on suit. I can never forget that day. And he saw me. I was like, "Yo, why are you wearing a suit?"
Yeah.
So then he talked to me. I talked to him about like, "Oh, this is what I know. I know Python. I know this. I know that. I know this. I know that. I know C#." And he was like, "Okay, do you know what? We'll get you something." And yeah, he gave me my first job. So shout out to Ian.
Shout out Ian as well.
Shout out Ian. The greats,
That's true. Another trend I've noticed, I seems a lot of my friends who start off in engineering kind of pivot towards product. Why did you start? So how did you find the coding, more software development type internships, and why did you decide to pivot to product?
I think my pivot to product happened organically. I wouldn't say like to some degree I was, because I felt like software development was something that I could do. I did it for 2 co-ops, like in Fora and at Shaw. I did front end and Shaw, which I really enjoyed. But I don't know, I just wasn't great at it. Like I wasn't outstanding. I wasn't like, super this like whiz that everyone like. I felt like my classmates were like way ahead of me. Like I could figure it out, but I think it would take me too much time. But all the same, I took a term where I wanted to do my own thing, which is when I started like working on paid.
Which we'll get to.
And you'll get to, but it was that experience that made me realize that like I enjoy all these things all together, not just like coding and like developing something. So that's where I was just like, I realized I think I want to be a PM, and then from there I just never went back. Yeah.
Let's just get to the point. Apple. How did you get the job at Apple? Like, just walk us through the entire process.
Okay, so I wrote an article about this.
Yes, I don't know if that article. I read
yeah, so I wrote an article about this, like how it runs like Microsoft and Apple. So check it out.
I'll add the link in the description.
Yeah, link in the description. So I write a lot on Medium. So the Apple one, honestly, like I'm not kidding you. Like I know everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, this is like she's like forming it," but honestly, it's God. First of all.
Okay.
But I'll tell you the reason why I said that, because like I mentioned even before, there are a lot of fortunate experiences that you have that sort of like help your stars align in a way. So I think that's what just happened. So I always wanted to work for Apple. Like that was like my first year. I remember when I was in Res, I was talking to a couple of friends, and I was like, and we're just applying for jobs. I was like, wow, how cool would it be to get a job at Apple? And it was always something I always wanted to do. But the time when I decided I wanted to chase like product manager, I had 2 co-ops left. So, and for that one, I got that one in Microsoft. But before that, I wanted to go to California. So most of my interviews were about California companies. And I went to Apple's info session, and I met someone there. I met him there, and we talked, and I gave him my resume, Michael. So I gave him my resume, but like I didn't hear back. I got a different Apple interview, but that was for software development. But I think the best offer I got then was Microsoft. Microsoft was great. We went through, like I learned. And then when I went back to school, I was like, I want to try for Apple again. That was like where my mind was at. And I knew a friend of mine who worked at Apple in operations in the product role that I eventually got. And she was telling me about like the role and all the people that are there. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh wow, this seems cool. Like, like I want to do this. And then I went to the info session, and I see the guy that I saw before, like 2 terms ago, like, collecting resumes and everything. I'm in line. And as I was just about to talk to him, my friend that I spoke to pulls up, and then she was like, hey, Michael, this is my friend Sefunmi, right? And I was like, hey, man, I remember you from last time. Where did you end up going? And I was like, oh, Microsoft. And I gave him my resume, and then we started talking. And he was like, oh, this sounds cool, bro, blah, blah, blah. Fine. Like, I go home. Like, typically in that info session, if you get an interview, they give you a card.
Yeah.
He didn't give me a card and everything. I just went home. It's like, whatever. I watched Game of Thrones at that time. And then I get a text from him. It was like, hey, it's Michael from Apple. I really enjoyed talking to you. Do you have time tomorrow for an interview? I was like, of course I have time tomorrow for an interview. He said, okay, scheduled 5:30, blah, 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 5:30 p.m. I kid you not, that night, I like literally read everything I knew about the discussion that we had. I just tried to like pull up a bunch of things. This is also when I mean like your like fortunate experiences. So one of the last few things that I read happened to be what they asked me in the interview.
Yeah.
So I had like a 30-minute interview with him. I was the last person they interviewed. They interviewed 16 people that day. I was the last person they interviewed. We chatted and, you know, he asked me a bunch of questions. Like I answered it and it seemed okay. Next thing, I could get an email a couple of days later that, hey, you have a second round. I was like, oh. And then my second round was with a guy named Tosin. He's Nigerian. I was like, God. Like, literally.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I mean by, like, your stars, like, aligning. But funny story, that interview was actually way harder than the first one. I thought it would be, like, a breeze. Because, like, I asked my friend, Cindy, like, hey, like, how do you know, what do you know about Tosin? I was like, he's great, blah, blah, blah. And I had this interview, and this man grills me. Every possible design question ever, like hardware design, not even just like general product design.
Wow.
Like he was asking me, and I was like just trying on the spot, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, the interview ends. I'm like, it's supposed to be like a 30-minute interview, it lasts for an hour. And I'm like sweating. I'm like, oh my God. And then it was like, okay, you know, I enjoyed talking to you. It was like, where are you from? I was like, I'm from Lagos, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, I grew up in Lagos. And we talked a little bit. I was like, okay, cool. And then ranking day, they typically reach out to you earlier on to give you an offer, but I didn't get, like, the recruiter didn't reach out to me. So it was on the day where rankings came out. Rankings is when they let you know the official match, where Waterloo tours we are going to be. And I see, like, Apple offer, and I was like, God. I fall down immediately, like, I bruised my elbow, I was bleeding, but I was like, I don't care. Because I was, like, astonished that, you know, Apple. And yeah, it was a great term. It was very busy. It's very hardworking. I think like that's where I built like the work ethic that I have today because I work there.
Really?
But yeah, so that's my Apple story. So it's like a whole lot of fortunate experiences that people fail to recognize that the stuff I did have to do. Like I did have to like do research. I studied, and like those things you still have to do. But there are other things that are out of your control that you need to be able to like look up and be like, yo, this is faith, or this is God if you believe in God. Stuff like that. So yeah, that's how Apple happened.
I respect that. So it's almost like some things like out of your control, some things were in your control.
Yeah.
So let's focus on things that were in your control, right? So like looking back, and I know people always want to be very modest, but like try and be as honest as possible, right? Like what do you think were the steps you took? Like in terms of like what did you study? Like did you go on Glassdoor? Like what kind of questions did you prepare for? How did you find the interviews? Like what practical things did you do to help you get that interview? And like how did you perform well in the interview?
I think during the conversation that I had with him in person, I think he talked to me about what they wanted in the role, and I picked up on those things.
What kind of things?
Right? He said, okay, there's the product side and there's like the technical side. There's the more like dealing with people, dealing with data and all that stuff. I think which you'd be fine on. It's like more of like how well do you present yourself? How do you think? How do you problem solve? And then he talked to me about more our failure analysis. I think he mentioned that too. Like, you know, we also deal with like failure analysis and stuff like that. He mentioned Python. So those key things that he was like mentioning about the role were like, okay, I don't know what this is. I need to brush up on my Python first of all. I need to understand how failure analysis is like on a hardware product and like the different types. I need to like figure out like how do I problem solve, you know, with data and like how do I deal with people based off of this problem. So I just went down that list. So I went home, like wrote a list of like, okay, I need to do this. I went to Code Academy, refreshed my Python.
So you did like coding prep for a product manager interview?
Yeah, but funny enough, they didn't ask me any.
I'm surprised that they did.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't know why, but it was something that I know. Another intern had to use Python, so I think that maybe like since he was like way better at it than I was, then maybe they didn't bother. But like I did, and then there's some jobs that even though like you're in a non-technical or product role, you still do have to code. They ask you if you prototype. Yeah. So I just went through that Python, brushed up in Python, did a couple hours of that failure analysis, started reading papers and reading like everything that I needed to do. So I just started going down the list to make sure like I did everything on my part. Like I didn't go to class that day. I was like, you know, whatever. So I did all that. And I was like, okay, I feel like I've learned everything that I had to do, and then go to the interview, try to be as friendly as possible, try to be as open as possible. And I think one good interview tip that I always give everyone is like, try and make it like a conversation. Don't make it like a question answer thing. Like it shouldn't be. So I think my tactic is I need the person to imagine working with me and know that, hey, this is casual versus this is a transaction. I think that's one of the things like I got to learn very well because I interviewed a lot. Like my last two terms, I interviewed with a lot of companies. So I found that the ones where I was more friendly with them, those were the offers that I typically got versus, they asking me a question and answering it. And I'm not, asking about you or, making, or just like turning it back around. Just engaging the person in general. Yeah. So I think I did that very well with Michael. And then when I even started the term, he ended up being like such a cool guy to like talk to or chill with or anything. So like that really helped.
It's interesting too because out of all the top tech companies like the Google, Facebook, Amazon, we think we have Microsoft. We have a lot of friends that work on all these companies, but Apple's like the one company that people don't know a lot about. So like I know like there might be some stuff you can't say, but like for the stuff you can talk about, like take us a bit behind the scenes and like what's it like actually like inside Apple? Like what's the culture like, work ethic, the people?
I think exactly how their products seem, exactly how their marketing is and their brand is the same thing that you see like behind the scenes. I think that's the best description that I can give because you see the amount of work that they put into their processes and they're very, very, very particular about like perfection and design. Like even their offices. Take like just their offices, like there's this Cafe Max. If you go in there you think like you're like the best Apple store, but it's like a cafeteria. But it's so that experience is not just like, oh, we talk about our products this way and then we do whatever. It transcends to everything. Like if you go to the Apple store, if you go to IT, if you go anywhere else, like if you go to that, I used to work in a lab sometimes. Like if you go to their lab, where you have like test fixtures and all that, like it's still like pristine. Everything looks like great. Everything is like in order. And I think like they have tried to make sure like everyone understands that there's a level of quality that they have, and you cannot be below that quality. So I think that's one of the reasons why I think like Apple is where it is today, and they had just built like an incredible work ethic. Like we would be on campus till like 10. Like your director is also there. Like your managers. It's not just like all the interns. It's not just like all. Like everyone is putting in work, making sure because they understand the vision. They understand what they need to do. And I think they also hire the amount of people that they need to get the job done. It's not like for example, like I compare with Microsoft that like has I think almost twice or 1.5 times as many employees. But then they have different teams doing the same stuff. Right? And Apple, that does not exist. You're hired for what you have to do. And then if you leave the company, someone else has to like fill in for you. So it's either someone else is taking on your workload and that person is stressed, or they hire someone else. So everybody is needed for the things that they have to do. Like even my intern job, I needed to do that in order for things to move forward. So there's just like, honestly, it's in terms of like process and everything, they have it like 100%.
And that's actually what I was about to ask you. So if Apple was so great, why didn't you go back?
So there are different answers to that question. Number one, visa, right? So I'm a Nigerian citizen. I have to get the H-1B visa. And in order for you to do that, you need to apply before April 1st. And by then, to apply, you need to have a piece of paper that says you fulfilled your degree requirements, right? And that doesn't happen until like end of April. So there was no way I could even work anywhere in the States that year. So that's one. Number two, I wanted to go more and focus more into software. Should we start again?
No, we're good.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah, so visa was like the first thing. So I'm a Nigerian citizen. So in order for you to work in the States, you need a visa called H-1B. And in order to get that visa, you need to show a piece of paper that says you've completed your degree requirements before April 1st. And exams are not done until end of April, so there was no way I was working anywhere in the States the year I graduated in 2017. Right? So the earliest I could have done was like October of 2018. That was the earliest.
What about like a conditional offer? Oh, October of 20... You graduated in 2017.
Yeah, but the earliest I could work in the States because of the H-1B.
Wow, it's a whole year.
It's a whole year that you have to. That was the first one. Second one was I wanted to work more on software. So I did get like a return offer, a verbal return offer. My manager and my supervisor were like, we want you to come back. but I definitely wanted to move into like a more software team. And I didn't really spend a lot of time looking. And once I realized I couldn't work in the States anymore, I just dropped it. Yeah.
And what was the third answer you gave me off air?
No, that was the two answers.
You said there's a lot of workload, right?
Yeah, it was also a lot of workload. It was a lot of work, and I was okay doing that work at that time because I was like, when I was just out of school, it was time to grind and everything. But I think I was rethinking it, and I don't know, I just wasn't. I was thinking like, do I really want to like work that hard?
No, it's like work-life balance.
Yeah, it's like work-life balance. So I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'll probably do it again if I'm honest, because I think I'm at the stage where I'm like, you know, focus on career, you want to learn a lot. So I wouldn't mind doing it again, to be honest. But find the right team. Okay. Watch OS. If you're hiring, I'll work for Watch OS or iOS.
Why? What do you mean?
I don't know. I really like the Apple Watch, and I think like there's like so much that you can do. So I was like, I'll work on the Watch OS team, on the iOS team or something. So that would be a cool team to work for.
So, like you said, that article you wrote, how you got the job at Microsoft and Apple. Like, first of all, I want to personally thank you for that article. Yeah, because I remember I was actually reading it too while I prepared for my Google interviews and stuff, and it helped me out a lot. First question is, why did you write the article?
I mean, I think one of the reasons why I do things like a number of people have asked me.
Yeah, I'm the same.
So that's like the first thing. Like, if a lot of people have asked me, like, I might as well just like document it. So and then I think I wanted to, like, I just started writing, like, on Medium. I just started my Medium. I was like, what would be a cool topic? And the first article I wrote, I think, was about my startup, Pave, and the second one was about this, because I think I'm very tech focused. Like, I'm in tech. I was like, it has to be tech. So what do people care about? A lot of people asked me that and answered so many questions. So I was like, I decided to write it. And I was going to write an article, another one later on about like even just like getting a job after you graduate, but I never got to it. But because it was another thing that people asked me. So any article that I write is from people asking me questions. Yeah. I'm trying to answer it and point them in that way. I'm like, hey, you can read this. This is essentially what I did. And I think it's a long article. It's like a 15-minute long article. I don't know how I wrote all of that.
But I think too is like when it's something like how to get a job, people will read all 15 minutes of that article too. So another thing you mentioned in the article too is like the whole like Cali or bust. Right? So I had a measure where we talked about the same thing too. So where you've been in two sort of like high pressure environments, Waterloo engineering, and then you had the Apple, Silicon Valley, California tech bubble, high pressure environment as well. So and also like the whole idea of like, sort of like doing what your peers are doing, like kind of like, so did you feel like when you're at Waterloo, do you feel sort of like pressure, like external pressure to sort of like go to California and get that job? Yes. And like so like tell me more about that. Like how do you like manage like the work-life balance, like the burnout, like overworking and stuff like that?
It's difficult because if everyone around you is doing something, it's easy to just like want to just follow that same path. And I remember when I took my eco-op term, that's when most of my friends started working at Cali. Started getting offers on Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and started going. And when I was even working on paper, I was like questioning myself, like, why am I doing this? I could be working, elsewhere. And you shouldn't compare yourself. First of all. And it's easy to say after you've gone through it and like you're here now. But I remember at that time feeling like this is like I really want to go to Cali and everything. And even when I left like my startup, I was like, okay, I need to find a job. It made sense for me to like go to Cali. Now is the time. Like I have 2 co-ops left. Let me do this because I want to work at the best of the best. I want to push myself. And I think they're just like trade-offs that you have to make. Like I mentioned in the article, I focused mostly on getting like a good job. And I was like, hey, I want a product management job. I preferably wanted in California, but anywhere else. So I applied to other places. So I never did only California, like, I'm not getting anything else. I diversified. So I got interviews for Toronto companies, Waterloo companies, Seattle, New York, California. I just ended up going to Seattle because like that's like the best offer that I got at that time. But it's like a balance of things. So I think school was on the back burner. And I used to take a lot of pictures. So like you mentioned 42 Storm before, so that was also on the back burner. So I couldn't balance that anymore. So I was like, you know what, interview prepping, studying for interviews, that's like how I did. And then when I got there, it's like, obviously there's the expectation, you have to perform, you have to continue to make sure like you're at the top of your game because everyone around you is smart. Everyone around you is like at the top of their game. So you would definitely get some of that and use that as fuel to make yourself better.
So when you were doing, because you seem like you neglected a lot of us to focus on this interview prep. What kind of things were you doing for interview prep?
So I was reading a lot of like cracking the coding interview,
Cracking the coding interview?
Cracking the coding.
The
Cracking
PM interview.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll link that below as well.
Yeah, I didn't start cracking the PM interview. I did maybe some like algorithm, just research, just like look up, just refresh my memory. Did a lot of those. Read a lot of case studies. Read online.
Wait, where did you find case studies?
I just like Google stuff online. I'm like, oh, you know, what is this? How do you do this? This type of interviews. I talked to a lot of people. It's like, hey, you had this interview before.
Let's talk about that networking, right? So, like, how do you network?
Honestly, I used to be a very social person, not as much anymore. So honestly, like I had no shame. I'll reach out to people like upper years who have had this experience.
Was it Facebook, LinkedIn?
Facebook, LinkedIn. I told my friend, hey, do you know anyone that's done this? Do you know anyone that's done this? So I was always cool with the upper years. So I'll like maybe in the lab talk to them about like, hey, do you know anyone that's done this? Talk to them. Hey, I have this Yelp interview. What do they typically ask? What should I do? All that stuff. So just like talking to a lot of people who had these experiences before, what they'd like to know, like how do I stand out, etc., etc. And people just giving me tips, and you just treat it as a quest. You just, hey, I need to get these 3 things, and then talk to someone, you get something that you need, you go research. So that was just like me, just like going around. So I was determined. I was like, hey, you know what, I need to get a good job. And honestly, I think when you're focused on something, if the goal is very clear, it's so much easier for you to like execute in that.
Yeah.
Because that term was where I had the highest number of interviews, highest number of offers, you know.
Wasn't it risky though? Like when you said you neglected like school to like focus on interview preps, like were you like, especially as an international student, a lot of stuff too, like.
I think in Waterloo you learn how to finesse this thing. Like you know all the things that you need to do. I think when you get to that stage where you're not scared of failing out anymore, you sort of understand how things work and how to get things done. So like you had to go to labs. You didn't have to go to class. So class I didn't go to. Everyone go to class. I'm not saying you should not go to class. So I didn't go to class. I would go to my labs because labs are mandatory. You have to do your labs. Assignments like I'll do. And I had a very good lab partner where we delegated. So we're lab partners for all our courses. So maybe we'll have like 3 or 4 labs. He'll take 2, I'll take 2. So that way, like I got to focus on like just one thing versus like all these other things. He would get to focus on that, and like he would carry all those labs. I'll carry all my labs. So it's like just finding ways around it. Like, honestly, if you have like a good circle where like everyone's focused on the same thing, you help each other out. Like assignments and stuff, we always like help each other out. Like assignments was always like a group thing. If you had 5 questions, each person take 1 question, we all split it, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if this is plagiarism or anything. Like, I'm not sure. Like, whatever school that's listening, but I think we just found a way to make it work with ourselves. We taught each other. Like I remember times when we all be in like one house, like during final season, and someone will learn this chapter and teach everyone else because we've all missed out on it. So that's how we do. Like once I understand how to do something very well, we teach it. So you just know how to do it just enough so you can get by. Because at that point, we weren't trying to get like high grades or anything, because we already knew like experience was where it's at. Yeah. So we're just like, as long as we can pass Waterloo with an average above 70, like we're good. Yeah. And it was even over 60, but I mean, for most of us, like over 70 was decent, you know. Yeah. So above 70, it was good. Focus on getting good jobs, because when you graduate, you want to have a good job. You want to have a good resume stack. So that was our focus. So that helped a lot. Yeah. Having like a good circle of friends to just like bounce ideas off of. And so I think that went a long way.
That's good. Yeah. And that's actually really good to hear too, because I feel like, especially like in other schools and other programs, it's very like competitive. Like people are like competing against, like I know my friends in med side, they talk about this a lot, right? But I think at the end of the day, like we're all kind of working towards the same goals. Yeah. So there's no point like making our lives easier for each other.
I never got that. And there were some people in our class that were like that. They want to be at the top of the class. They don't want to help you, you know, and they just want that growth. But I think I found like a good group of people that we cared about like each. Like it's not like someone gets a 90, someone gets a 60, and the person that gets a 60 is not like, oh my god, how do you get a 90 when I go? I thought we're supposed to help each other. No, it was just more of like, hey, do you pass? We passed. Yeah. We never even really talked about grades. We're just like all focused on helping each other out, making sure like we don't fail. Like you don't want to see your boy fail and like, get left behind. Yeah. So that was our focus, and I think I was very fortunate. Again, I'm about to be fortunate that I found like a good group. I don't think if I was in any other set or any other year, if I didn't have that close group of friends, like I don't know what I would have done, because I think like that helped me through school throughout. Like I'm being honest, like I'm not like some smart, easy person. Like I had a lot of help throughout Waterloo, and I think like that's the best way to go. You know.
I rate that. I like that. So now let's talk about you graduated, and I seen your pictures all over the social media on the gram flexing your grad. So you graduated, and then you started to work at Ecobee. Yeah. So why did you start on Ecobee, and how'd you get that job?
So once I graduated, like I knew I had to come back to Canada, and you know I think
Why?
It was challenging for me because of the whole visa
But
situation.
like, did you think about going back to Nigeria or?
No.
The way this guy laughed.
I'm sorry. Not at the moment. So I started my job search very late because like I was still trying to like push for like going to the States like till the end of the term. But that didn't work out, and I was like, okay, now I have to job search. And then I was planning my grad trip in like May-ish, June. So I started really job hunting in like July, and I was just like, okay, well, like I need to like step in. And first thing I learned was like there are not a lot of PM roles in Canada. Like in the States, they have like APM programs where fresh grads can be PMs, and you learn you work for as an APM for 2 years, and then you become a product manager. So they had a lot of those that were very more open to it, very product focused companies. Versus in Canada, like a company would have, maybe like a couple PMs, maybe like 1 PM to like 20 developers. Versus like in the States, it's like maybe 1 PM to like 4 or 5 developers. So and most of the jobs were asking for like 5 years of experience, 3 to 5 years of experience. Very very few like that you see that they're asking for 2 or like not that much. So it was very challenging. First of all, I just want to say like it was very challenging like finding something. But I think I was just set on, like I mentioned, when you have that goal, like I want.
So what were you doing? Like, were you like reaching out to people on LinkedIn? Were you just like applying for jobs online?
So I did. I tried to like get like an in-person or like speak to a recruiter. Like applying online never affected me. I did that sometimes, but most times like I'll try and reach out. Like, hey, can I speak to a recruiter? Hey, I'm very interested in this role. This is my experience. I've had internships here. I've built a product from scratch. How about talk to me? And I didn't get a lot of people that would talk to me, but there were some companies that were like, you sound very great, but you don't have real experience. Like, internship is like, it's okay, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of calls like that, and it was very heartbreaking when I was like, hey, please give me a chance, stuff like that. But like, I was focused. A lot of people were like, we'll hire you as a developer, since you have development experience. And then, after 2 years, you can switch. I was like, nope, I want to be a PM. Like, I was not taking, like, whenever any company would say that, I'm like, try this, try that, try this, try that. So, I was just like, it was just very challenging. But then I ran to Ecobee, and I learned about them while I was, like, still at Microsoft, because I worked on something similar while I was there. And I was like, wow, they're in Canada. So I was first of all excited I was in Canada. And then this one I actually applied online because I didn't know anyone working there. But I reached out to the recruiter. She didn't reply me. I actually have to talk to her about it because she's here right now. I'm very good friends with my recruiter. But I messaged her on LinkedIn. But at least maybe that like helped. Like I don't know. I haven't really discussed it. But immediately I applied. I was like, I sent her. I connected with her and expressed my interest. Later I got called for an interview, and as I started learning about the product and learning about the process, I really enjoyed the interview process. It was the first initial screen, then I had the first on-site with the director of product management and the product manager, and it was good. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was great. And the last round was a case study where you had to go for 1 week, they give you a problem to solve and you come back and solve it. And I really enjoyed working on it. Like it got me to learn about the product, learn about like the things that the possibilities, the opportunities, and I was like, whoa, this is great.
Yeah.
So I interviewed, did the case study. It was so great. It was nice to get my juices flowing. So you come in and you have like a good understanding or decent understanding of how the company functions on their product. So it's like when you're coming in, you're not totally blind. I mean, you have some assumptions, but they're easily corrected once you start. So I think I found that process good. I ended up having a couple other offers, like eventually like very late. But I think Ecobee was just like by far they were offering me more autonomy. Like the projects that I was going to be working on seemed like I'll have a lot of autonomy as to what I was going to do. And that was, and I think
what are the offers that you get?
So there was this other startup called Coho.
Yeah, I know
Coho. I wrote an article about them. So I was talking to them for, wasn't really a PM role, but was something similar. Other one was Shopify. I was talking to Shopify to the point where we're willing to like match with a team. But so far I wasn't getting any luck with like a good team. So that wasn't, that process.
Excited a bit?
Huh? We good.
So now we're in the second half of the interview. So now we're talking more about like your life path and things of that nature. The first question I was going to ask is, so a while back you decided to take a 1 year break from social media.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to do that?
I think number one, I like challenges first of all, and I think before that, back in 2014, I did another challenge where the whole year I spent without drinking pop, specifically about not drinking Coca-Cola or Coke. Um, so that was interesting. That was the first time I had ever done something where I was like, oh, do you know, let's just like abstain from something for a while. That was like a good experience, and now I don't drink Coke as much. I don't pop as much.
As much, but you still drink.
I mean, I still drink indulge here and there, but I think it was just more of like if I put my mind to something, I can do it. So the break from social media was inspired by a lot of things. Number one, like in no particular order, productivity. I wanted to see how much more I'll be productive without this, and the answer is a whole lot more. Definitely, for sure, because you're not wasting time doing that. I think another thing was I was trying to understand better how these products that I use, how do they influence like my day-to-day and stuff. And I felt like I was heavily influenced by the culture of posting things that you're very proud of, sharing good experiences. But then that can also be a form of evil, and it just depends on how you use it. And I felt like I wasn't really using it with the best of my abilities, because you have highs and you have lows, and you only show your highs. And it's like one of the reasons why we're here. Oh, you worked at Microsoft, you worked at Apple, you've done this, you've done that, you've done this, you've done that. But people don't see, when Sefunmi was like job hunting in Canada, like that was like a shitty experience. It was actually really shitty. And I'm here now, it's great. I'm at Ecobee, it's fine. And like people see that, I was like, oh, it's great, you've done so much, you got an award or whatever. But then there's still lows during that point where like I struggle with work or struggle with the balancing things. So I haven't found an effective way of doing that. So I think it just took the time to just like self-reflect and realize like, hey, what does this thing do to me, and how can I, like, who am I without it, and then how can I see how I can use it to be better or something. So it was a bunch of things.
Because I did something similar too, and I think my thought process was very similar to yours. Why did you decide to come back?
Well, I'm not back. So I came back, I think, on Twitter and Snapchat, and I've just been tweeting my podcast, doing the thing, listen to it.
We'll link it below.
So I started a podcast with my friend Helen. It's called Do the Thing, and it's about, because we're trying to write this book, and the podcast is about the process of writing the book. So I went online just to tweet about, that's what I use Twitter for. Like, I don't even have the app on my phone. Like, I downloaded it, but then I deleted it. I only used the web app, which I'm not a huge fan of. And then Snapchat, like I've had for a couple of weeks now, and I posted it, and I'm realizing that, hey, my audience is in here, so I'm gonna stop using it.
Yeah.
So I only use LinkedIn right now. I'm not back. I haven't even downloaded Instagram at all.
Instagram, that app is powerful. Wait, go on, man. Why don't you back on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram. I haven't even touched it, man.
That app is something else.
I have not touched Instagram lately. I think I'll do that. I'm giving myself one more month before I go back on Instagram. But I need to figure out the right way to use it.
That's it.
Like, I need to figure out the right way.
Because I think for me too, my thing was like, so I was back on Instagram back in high school, like however many years ago, and I was like posting random stuff, trying to impress other people, all that kind of stuff. And then you get older, you're like, man, like all this stuff is here for the world. Like, even if your account is private, it's for the world to see. You're not really thinking about all that kind of stuff. And then like now that I'm back on Instagram, like I'm a lot more thoughtful about what I'm posting, like what kind of message I'm putting out. And like I would encourage you, man, like to get back on Instagram, like. Because like if you have a business, like the attention is there.
Yeah,
everybody's on Instagram multiple times a day.
I heard. So that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to use it effectively, right? So if I don't understand how to do that, like I don't want to jump into something without. Yeah. So I need to form like a strategy of what I'm going to do and use it effectively.
And also, like you said too, and not just how you're posting, but also like how you're consuming it.
Yeah.
Because I noticed too, like when I was on Instagram, like my first time, like my first round on using Instagram, I was just like consuming a lot of stuff that wasn't making me feel good about myself, And it's like, so now I'm a lot more thoughtful about who I follow, and I know how the algorithm works. Like if I like something, I know that if I'm gonna like this, it's gonna show me more stuff like this. So I'm a lot more thoughtful about what I like too. So just something.
Yeah, it makes sense. Even like how I was contributing to it because of my Instagram was about like my trips and my traveling and all that and everything. And I think like even on people on the receiving end, I'm contributing to like a different way of like thinking about other people's lives. So I just didn't think like I was using it effectively. So I think I'll figure out a way to use it better and then come back and hopefully everything is all good.
I like that. So, very thoughtful approach to doing things.
But not on Instagram or anything yet. But eventually I'll be back and I'll use it. Because I think I also need to tweak more. Because apparently it's good for you to at least.
Oh, dude, if you're in tech, like even me too, I feel like I'm not really using Twitter as well as it could be.
Yeah.
Because like the amount of opportunities that are on Twitter, especially tech Twitter, Nigerian Twitter, is.
I heard like I was in SF like not too long ago, and I was having like brunch with a friend of mine, and someone else overheard our conversation. We were talking about like VCs, and he was saying, "Oh, you need to be in Twitter. You need to talk and have conversations." I was like, oh, "Yeah, makes sense."
Mm-hmm. So now one of my favorite questions to ask is the 1, the 5, and the 25. So as you can probably imagine, where does Sefunmi see himself a year from now, 5 years from now, and 25 years from now?
Okay. 1 year from now, I better have finished that book. I think that's the first thing. I better have finished that book that we're trying to write with Helen. I don't even know what the book is going to be called, but I think there's still a lot of work to do. In terms of career, I'm a product manager right now. I want to be better, get more responsibility in terms of like the products that I ship, the line of businesses that I have control over. Learning more. I think I need to learn more, ship more, just like build my muscles in product in my career. Because I think like then I'll be doing it officially for like 3 years, So there is some weight to that, and it's like you have 3 years of experience, so like full-time experience, not counting internships. So it's like, what can you do? What can you say from that? And I think it should be at that level where I'm like, very confident to have like my toolbox, the toolkits that I use, and have a good way of thinking about the problems that I solve. I think that's 1 year.
So you didn't really answer the question. So like, what does that even mean?
That's just general, like a little bit of.
You want to be better at your job.
Yeah, I want to be better at my job. I think grow more, do more, ship more. I don't think because 1 year is very short. So it's like there's no particular, like there's all that 1 year can pass and you can be in the same place that you are. So I just want to make sure like I'm making the steps to do that. Yeah. And I think one strict goal is obviously finish that book.
Okay.
Finish that book. So I think that's like 1 year plan. I hope I answered that. So 5 years. 5 years. I think for me, at that time, I want to be. So I'm very passionate about like solving real world problems, like beyond like the ones that we do today in tech, like which I think are problems of convenience to some degree. Most of the North American problems that we're solving. Actually, looking back home in Africa, Nigeria to be specific, or actually not just Nigeria but Africa in general, and the real world problems that they're going through. People are going through like real problems, like no water, no food, type of problems, electricity. It's going back to that and trying to solve problems or finding ways and creative ways to solve problems around that area. So I think that's like 5 years. If I'm not doing that, I feel I'll be very disappointed in myself. Like if I look back 5 years, remember I told you look back at 16-year-old me, which is way more than 5 years ago. Yeah. And like I thought I'll be doing that, and I'm not doing that right now. So I think I'll be very disappointed if in 5 years, like with all I've learned, with where I'm at, with all the knowledge I've gained, I haven't been able to give back substantially to solve, even if it's for like one community or one state, So I think I need to be that needs to be my day to day. My day to day like should be solving those problems. Like my job, my reason and purpose should be that. And then 20. That
was good. I like that one. That was good.
My 25 year, I better be retired, man.
Really?
And I actually no.
So like you'd be like your 50s though. So like
and by retirement I mean like if I
you don't feel like you have to work.
Yeah, it's not like I think the way like I typically like imagine myself at that time, or imagine the career that I want, even from that 5 years moving on, is a career where it doesn't really feel like work. So if I talk to you about like, hey, we have this project that I want to do, or Nigeria building this school, like, or doing, like, just redoing this community or improving something there. Like, that shouldn't feel like work. It should feel like a project that I want to work on. And if I'm doing it with, like, close friends and family, that wouldn't feel like work. We feel like, hey, this stuff that we have to do. If you have the capital to do, if you have the knowledge, it's like, hey, let's do this. And, like, our day-to-day is that. And, like, we mix it with, like, obviously, like, some recreations, like, playing golf or chilling or sitting with family. So I think that's the life that I imagine. So if my life is surrounding all of that, I think that'll be good. Because I think I want to be a family person. I want to like be around my family. And if like all of us have that mission that, hey, we want to be able to live the world better than we met it, and everyone's like going for that, then by all means, like that wouldn't really feel like work. It's like as long as we also have like enough money to like survive and all of that, we don't like. I don't want to be worried about like my day to day where food is gonna come from, and you know, if you want to travel here, if you want to eat here, you can do. So all of that. So I imagine all of that is handled. Right, there's some passive income that can get us to live our lives, and then we have this extra amount of resources that we can use to give back, and that's like all we're doing.
So let's go back to that 25-year time scale, right? So like with $25, with 25 years, and like pretend money's not an issue. So with the long enough time scale, what are some of the big problems that you're looking at that you want to solve?
So right now the way I think about that, I think about it as a basic human right, and to me, I think this is different to everyone, but to me, when I take a step back, food and water, number one. Right? If people can't eat and drink, they wouldn't be productive.
We mentioned electricity though.
Yeah, I'm getting to it. So
okay.
Food and water is like bare minimum. Like you need to eat, and you wouldn't be productive. Like people look at homeless people or people in in societies that are not doing so well. It's easy to just say, "Oh, these people are not working." If you don't have the strength to work, if you don't have, even just like physically, if your body doesn't have the nutrients, your brain is not gonna be like, "Oh, let me do this." Yeah. So I think food and water is an important one. Sustainable housing is another one. For people, for societies that have a lot of like homeless problems, or if homes are very expensive, so that's like another important one. People having like a roof under their head. So it's like removing the things that people don't need to worry about so they can be more productive. Electricity, I think it's a huge one. Like electricity, like unblocks so many things.
Yeah, that's so true.
It unblocks, especially like in a country like Nigeria, where like so many more opportunities just open up when you have like electricity, right? So I think it's removing I think about the things that you need to survive. If you have food, water, and shelter, you can do a bunch of other things. Education, right? For education in terms of not just like structured the way we go to school now, but just access to information that can give you an advantage. The reason why I'm here today is because I have an advantage because of the education that I went to, because I went to Waterloo. And Waterloo had this core programs. So it's giving people access to information and education in however way. Like I don't know what that will be, but I think it needs a huge reform. So we need to rethink it based on society, based on the countries and stuff. So like education is like a group. So I think those are the main things. So if you give people all of that, I feel like then you can say you have no excuse. Yeah. Like we've given you all the things that you need to succeed. I think there's like another one. Obviously like safety.
Government could be another one, but
yeah.
let's put it on the side.
Yeah, but obviously like safety. So I think if you have all those, if you're not worried about any of those things, and if you do not do anything, then I think that's on you. Because you've been given everything like food, water, you have shelter, you have access to electricity and information, and you're safe. You're not dealing with like war. You're not in a war society or war community. Your life isn't threatened. Excuse me. So stuff like that. So I think that those five basic human rights.
So you mentioned five. So is there anything you're doing right now that's sort of getting you towards that general direction?
Yes, I've started some smaller projects in my hometown in Ogun State, Nigeria. So I did like a borehole project with my family. I've never really talked about this. I don't talk about it too much, but I think I want to get to the point where I'm starting to talk about it more and create more awareness, because I think that I'm trying to do another project, and I want people to like help and contribute to that. So what we did was we created a borehole. So essentially we take water from the underground and we pump it into tanks, and then we also have those tanks connected to a tap outside where people have access and they can get access to water. So water was the first project that we did, and then people use it for their day-to-day, and it's regulated and stuff like that. So we did that back in 2017, so that's been running for a while, and there's been a lot of learning from that. It's also been very rewarding seeing it's been appreciated by the community. The community is using it. The community is trying to keep it well, and they're trying their best to make sure it continues to run, because it can get expensive, and they want to make sure that this gift doesn't just run off. So it's not thinking about more self-sustaining solutions, like what else can we do that maybe you put capital in once and then the community. Like I think those are the problems that I'm thinking about now, and I'm trying to work on a project next year around that theme. You're picking one of the five human rights. So I mean, I've started thinking about it. I haven't started working on it because my plate is very full right now. I have a lot of things that I want to do, but I've started talking to people about it and saying, hey, I'm trying to do this, ideas, tips, and stuff like that. that. So I'll definitely like keep you posted when I actually start putting pen to paper
Yeah.
and saying, hey, I want to like draft up.
And so, like, the borehole, like, is there, like, a link on the any websites? Where were we? You were talking about, so the borehole part you were going about.
Yeah.
If people want to find out more about that, is there a link somewhere we can check out?
I have not published anything about it, but I think I'm working on something to just like talk about it a little bit more and stuff. So maybe this year, maybe sometime next year, like I'm trying to do something similar, so I might like talk about, hey, this is what I've done in the past. But I don't want to know. But if you want to talk to me about that, like, feel free to like shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to like answer any questions.
Okay. So now to come to the last part of the interview. Question I would ask you is, but anyway, if there's any information about that, I'll add the link to his website and all that stuff below, so you can contact him as well.
I need to rebuild my website.
Yeah, a lot of it's according to that, you're still a student at University of Waterloo.
Yeah, I'm still a
So you
student.
need to update that.
I haven't touched it since 2015. It's almost 4 years, but I'm making a new one soon when I have time.
Yeah. So what are you currently obsessed with?
What am I currently obsessed with?
So and don't say freedom or world peace or like education. Like that's great, but like I want something like just like normal, like Instagram channel. You know, you're not on Instagram, but like workout, restaurant, new food, new exercise, YouTube, podcast, book, anything.
What am I currently obsessed with? I've never been asked that before. I don't know. I have to like think about that for a second. But I think I'm just obsessed with. I'll say I don't know if this is a cliche answer, but self-improvement type of
Okay,
thing.
cool. Everyone says that. That's cliche. That is a cliche answer.
It
Something
is,
more
yeah.
specific.
I'm
Like,
just-
what's a good like self-improvement book or like YouTube channel or something you do right now?
So one of the things I'm doing right now is like I'm journaling. I journal every day.
Journal, okay.
Yeah. So I try to like keep up. I'm trying to like create like a healthy routine, which is good and bad. I heard good things about it. I've heard bad things about it. So I'm just trying to see what works. So I think I'm obsessed with anything that's like experimenting. I'm trying to like experiment with like a whole lot of things. Like for example, one of the things I'm trying to experiment with is remote work. I'm trying to like work remotely and see how that is, because I did that one time last year and I really enjoyed it. Like it was just for like 2 days. It was such a great experience. I was like, hey, I want to try this. I'm doing that again sometime this year. So I'm trying to see if so I'm just trying to experiment on life. Like what do I like in life? So I think I'm trying to be more self-aware and trying to. So I guess I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with that.
Okay, interesting.
That's really a good thing. Yeah. What else? No.
Okay, second last question. So if anyone found the stuff you said really cool and interesting, you want to reach out to you and talk to you more, what's the best way to contact you?
Honestly, email is the best way. I think you put it in the description.
Yeah.
Email or LinkedIn. I'm at least I respond on LinkedIn. I don't post too much, but I respond. So LinkedIn is the best way to like give me a shout out. Just like, hey, what's up? And I'll be able to answer any question eventually. I respond to most messages.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that stuff, link, description below.
Yeah.
Final question. I'll post 2 questions. You pick the one you like the most. So maybe like think of it like a letter to your younger self. So you said Sefunmi at 16. What would you tell 16-year-old you now? Or for the people watching this right now, if you want to give them one piece of advice or one thing you want to like, or you want them to think about, one thing you want to tell them, what would it be?
I'll answer the second one. Because I think 16-year-old me should just continue doing you.
Yeah.
What I would advise, I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give you, and I tell this to anyone that asks me about, hey, we're trying to do something, I think reflect. The purpose of reflection, trust me, it goes such a long way. Like, reflect on who you are and who you want to be. I think that honestly opens up, like, so many answers. Like, for example, if you want to work at a specific company, and if you know about their culture, and if you reflect and you realize that you're not going to be that kind of person. You know, you can't tell me like you want to work at Tesla and you're very, very big on work-life balance. You want to like always you want to work like 40 hours a week and you can't work at Tesla. That wouldn't make sense because everyone puts in a lot of work. So I think you need to reflect and be self-aware about like who you are, what you like to do, what are your likes, what are your dislikes. That helps you make a lot of decisions better. Not just like with like careers, but with like any like with relationships.
So I'll ask you then. I agree with everything you're saying, right? But I feel like, okay, develop self-awareness. Okay, cool, but it's kind of very abstract.
Yeah.
So like, what are some things people can do to develop self-awareness?
Journal. Journaling is like, yeah. So trust me, like you.
And like, what kind of things would you like should you write in your journal?
So for me, I think people do it differently, but for me, what I do is like I do like a reflection of the day, what I learned, and like the things that I didn't handle well. There's some things like I realized that maybe I shouldn't have done this way, and I know better for next time. But I think it helps like I think one of the things I've been telling people about, especially when people reach out to me to talk about, hey, I want to, go into product management, right? So what I tell them, like, I do an exercise. It's like, okay, who are you today? What are the things that you're doing? What are your tasks? What are your skills, right? If you think about the ideal job, write yourself the ideal job description, right? If you know it, or you can copy it online, or your ideal job role, write out all the things that you need to do there, and sort of do a comparison, like what do you have, what don't you have, and then you sort of like have the items that you need to work on, and then you can figure out like what's the next steps to get there. So that's like an exercise that I do, and I think that's also part of like reflection, and it's just documenting that process. So it's like you're seeing it clearly. So you have 5 items in your toolkit, and you see product management needs like 7. So you're missing these 2 things. So how do you get these 2 things, right? And I tell them, talk to people and be like, hey, do you have any of these 2 things? Say, hey, this is how I learned thing 1, thing 2. You take that and until you build that back up and you have 7, and then it's easy to, because when you're applying for jobs, and this is not just like a job thing, but when you're confident that you can do something, it's just about like doing it. And even if you get rejected, you wouldn't feel too bad because you're like, okay, maybe it just wasn't the right fit. You gave it your all.
Yeah.
Versus like, I know a lot of people like they just apply online, just like they spray and then they pray, and they get rejected. They feel sad, rejected. But you didn't do all the things that you're supposed to do. So right now, anytime like I apply for a job, like if I ever apply for a job, like I know exactly that I can kill it. I know exactly that I can do all these things. Like when I read job descriptions, I can, So it's when you have that confidence, like nothing can break you. And maybe there'll be other external factors but like you'll be able to give anyone the run for their money. So I think knowing that keeps your confidence very, very high. And that has helped me a lot.
Wow, excellent. Sefunmi,
you're a hype man.
What a guy. Great.
Yeah.
That's the thank you, and then we'll catch you on the next episode of Atila TV.
Yeah. One more thing.
Yeah.
I'm doing a podcast right now. I know he's going to talk about it. But yeah, if you ever want to learn about product management or people who transition into product management, that's what the podcast is about. So we're trying to write a book, and then the podcast is talking about the process of writing the book. So definitely check it out. Give me feedback. Hit me or Helen up, and we'll be able to answer any questions. So yeah, definitely. Thank you. This was great. Appreciate it.
Check the link in the description below for, what's it called again?
Doing a Thing.
Doing a Thing podcast.
Doing a Thing.
Catch you guys in the next episode of Atila TV. Peace! Thank you for that. Hey guys, Tommy, we're here. Hope you enjoyed that episode of Atila TV. So I actually forgot to turn off the microphone after we finished that episode, and I kept on recording. And I was playing back the content, and I was like, wow, this is some pretty good content. So I think you guys can get a lot of value out of it, so check it out. Also, a lot of people don't know this, but we're also available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. You can read our blog post on our website, atila.ca. Also follow us on Instagram at Atila Tech. Anyway, enough self-promotion. Enjoy the rest of this. Honestly, I'm so sorry. I was actually going to ask you about that. I didn't put in the question, but I was going to ask you about Doing a Thing.
Oh, good.
I think I asked you about it, didn't I?
Slightly. We touched on it a little bit, but I'll
yeah.
Don't worry. We'll put it in the description.
Yeah. I wasn't going to ask you about that.
Oh, good, man. This was great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for this. This was great. I enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, man. Honestly, like, even me, Tom, we're actually really starting to enjoy this stuff.
Yeah, honestly, when you talk to people, even all the PMs I interview, I learned so much from them. Like, yo, this is great.
The funny thing, too, now is even now, like, when I'm talking to my sisters and I was giving them advice, I'll be quoting stuff that other people told me.
Honest, knowledge is like a share, it's like a transition of resources, like a transition of resources.
There's no scarcity, right?
So that's the thing. Everyone.
If I give you money, I lose $1. But if I give you an idea, I don't lose an idea.
Exactly. Like, why should I withhold? And somebody said this to me one time. I was like, why should I have information that can make somebody else successful and withhold that? That's selfish. That is extremely selfish because you will not lose anything.
If only more people had that mindset.
So many things. People tell me things and like literally use things where other people have said to me, and I see them. People are like, it's not me or somebody else. But you sort of like get that, and you just it's a cycle, right? That's how knowledge goes around. I love what you're doing, man. Just keep it up.
Thank you, man.
Keep it up. Yeah, let me know when it's out. Tweet it, talk about it. Like everyone, check me out.
Yeah.
Check me out, man. Mama, I made it. I'm blown. That's what I'm talking. It's like I'm blown.
What I want to do next, so like I have two people helping me out, right? So then I'm thinking now, but I'm just thinking, will it be operated? So let's say like it's me and like my friend, and we're interviewing someone. I think that should be good, right? Like, it won't be awkward.
Yeah, I'm actually, I don't know yet because me and Helen were trying to do that, like how two people can interview one person. So that's challenge. We don't know. Because that's why I said breakfast club. Because
there's three of them.
And it's like, well, there's some people that are not talking and some people that are like maybe adding a couple things. So it might be that one person might lead it and then the other person will support. Like, wait, like that type of thing. So it depends. Like, I don't know. Try it out. We haven't figured it out. We don't know if we want to try it out, but we might separate it. I don't know because.
I think having both of you would actually be really good. Because I'm even thinking in terms of like diversity, like having a black guy and an Asian woman on a podcast. Now, honestly, it'd be like.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to figure it out, so I think we don't want to lose faith.
And it's tricky because he's in Seattle, right?
Wow.
She ain't gotta tell me what to do with it. I already know. Been knew I had a juice with it. Y'all ain't ready though. Outside, got the vision going. I'ma make it go.